From the Fox News Podcast Network, I'm Dana Perino, and everything will be okay. Hello and welcome. I'm Dana Perino, and I'm back to let you know everything will be okay. I'm joined by guests who share advice and their unique perspectives on living a fulfilled life while accomplishing career goals along the way. With Mother's Day coming up, I thought it appropriate to start off this podcast series with working moms who are achieving their greatest potential in their careers while somehow managing to balance their home life. These inspiring women join me to pull back the curtain on how they find the time and the energy each and every day.
Moms are amazing people. They already have the most important job of helping raise little babies to be good, productive people, and many of them are working as well. Managing a career and raising children is something I'm quite in awe of.
I met my first guest, Michele Chase, right after I left the White House and joined a big public relations firm. Michele Chase is a human capital leader and chief talent officer with over 20 years of experience across all sorts of platforms like public relations, human resources, and in sports, cable, and music industries. She's also mother to 3 wonderful sons. I want to start asking what we always ask the mentors at Minute Mentoring. What is your favorite piece of advice that you find yourself giving to others most often right now?
I have so many, but the one that keeps coming back to me is don't talk for the sake of talking. Throughout my career, people come to me for advice. They come to me because they have a problem. They don't know how to solve it. They're confused. There's different things going on in their work world, sometimes even in the personal world. And my immediate reaction, I always want to tell them what to do. I always want to tell them what I think. Sometimes it's really important, particularly if it's a sticky situation, to say, you know what, let me sleep on it, or let me take a little time to think about it, and I'll come back to you tomorrow, or give me an hour so I can just think about it. Because a lot of our knee-jerk reactions when we think we have the answer may not necessarily take into account like a 360 view of everything that's going on with that given situation.
That's a great point. I worked for a chief of staff on Capitol Hill in 1995 and 6. Her name is Holly Probst. I write about her in Everything Will Be Okay because she was one of my best mentors. And I remember one day asking her a fairly complicated question, and it was around 6 p.m., wrapping up our day. And she said, let me take a stab at that tomorrow when I have a fresh head, which is basically, let me sleep on it for a night. And you're right. Like when I remember to sleep on something for a night, you wake up with such, at least more clarity than if you're just trying to solve it quickly.
Yep. And it also makes people that you're dealing with feel like you're really taking it seriously instead of just throwing something on the wall to see if it sticks. It's important to understand people come to you because they don't know what to do. And I like taking a minute because it's not always super clear what the right answer is, even when it is clear initially,
So I don't have children, as you know, but you do. You have 3 boys. And I want to talk a little bit about how you're one of the women in my life that I look at and say, I don't know how she does it. And so when I interviewed you, it was for a couple of reasons. One, because you are an amazing working mom, but you also have incredible advice for others because of all of your experience in talent development and human resources and interviewing. And when it comes to your own personal experience, I didn't know this about you, and I'd love for you to tell the story, that you had just been promoted when you found out you were pregnant with your 3rd.
Yes. So that was a fun conversation. So first, what happened, I was in Asia with my leadership team. I actually was I was head of the U.S. I was asked to take the global role before I went to Asia, but I was asked to take the global role. And I said to my husband, I said, listen, you've got to stop working weekends if I'm going to take this job, and you've got to pick it up because I'm going to be traveling more and it's going to be hard. And he said, take the job. And so I said, okay. So I took the job. One of the things I've always tried to do is also keep my partner in crime here, Tim, really involved in my decisions because he has to be able to participate in those decisions. And I took the job. I went to Asia, and I remember having a glass of wine, waking up, not feeling really great, and thinking, wow, I can't be hungover from one glass of wine. And so I get back, and it's the Sunday before Christmas. We had agreed that I took the promotion, and everything was wonderful. And I was eating an apple, a green apple with peanut butter on it. And I looked at the apple, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm pregnant again. And I already had 2 kids, and I'm looking at them playing on the floor, and I'm like, oh my God. And my husband, my lovely, wonderful bonus child is amazing. He was not planned, but he was the best surprise I've ever had. So he came along, and I know that if I was pregnant, whenever they offered me the promotion, I just wouldn't have taken the job because I didn't think that I could do it. I took the job, and I was very pregnant for a while, right? 9 months. And people would come into my office and say, Michelle, how are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? Are you coming back? You have 3 kids. Are you coming back? And I would just look at them and say, isn't it funny? I don't think anyone's asking my husband that question. And I would laugh. And then they would laugh like, okay. And they would walk out of my office. Numerous people asked me that. But honestly, nobody asked my husband if he was going to be going back to work. And I just did. And it was doable. I obviously have a great partner in making sure we can get everything done and take care of the kids. But it was a moment in time that I personally know in my heart of hearts that if I knew I was pregnant, I wouldn't have taken it. So it was interesting. It was a blessing that I didn't know.
Right. But you were glad that you did take it. And then you did incredible work. You've talked about women starting an LLC. That would be kind of their own business, so they could take on as many projects as they want. And then when you do go back to work for an employer, you don't have a gap in your resume.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Having now, I'll say, well, that's how you ended up doing contracting work. So you could pay yourself and make sure you're staying current.
Another thing that you talk about, of course, is just the work-life balance. And you have some good advice for people in terms of setting boundaries with your employer and your colleagues. And you have some fun stories about what would happen if anybody called you during the hours when you said you needed your family time.
So I worked with some really great people. And when my children were small, they were pretty respectful. But often I would get calls, when we're having dinner or when someone's crying, I always picked up the call. Always picked it up because it would end up that the call was not important enough to not happen an hour later. And it was always fun when my CEO would call and one of my kids would be screaming or crying. They're like little drunk people. So there was always something going on in my house with my 3 boys. So I would pick up the phone and they're like, oh, you're busy. No, call me back whenever you're ready to talk. And okay, no problem. Great. And it kind of got them into the habit of understanding there was another life beyond. I think part of the gift of COVID is that we see into people's lives right now. And there are many things going on in people's lives because they're home. The same thing happened whenever we were working normally. I also would tell women or anyone in general, the people that you work with aren't psychic. They don't know what's going on with your life. They don't know what your schedule looks like. And as someone who is a pleaser when it comes to working, I always say yes. It's very rare that I want to say yes to everything, but you can't. So you have to be able to say no, and you have to be able to say that won't work, or you have to say, can I do it later? Or it needs to be done by this, but you just have to follow through and make sure you get whatever work done that needs to get done.
Any advice for the young woman who is thinking about becoming a mom, but might be, hesitant or worried, as I'm sure there's lots of anxiety that goes into that big next step? What would you tell them? Because I look at you and I think, I know nothing is perfect, but when I look at your life, I feel like you've just managed to do so much and so in such a fulfilling way, and you can cook beautifully. And I'm looking forward to dinner the next time we can come over. But the way you do it with such a healthy attitude, and you have an outlook, I think, that's very wise. So for young women who are maybe thinking of becoming a mom, any thoughts for them?
If you're even thinking, just do it. The best thing I ever did was have these 3 boys. I thought that I would probably have one, and then I had another and another, but they are, watching them grow and seeing them become good people and do kind things and, my oldest was a ski instructor this winter. And it was amazing to think like, wow, my little guy can do these things now. And it's fantastic. But I would say just do it. It's hard, but it's always hard. But, everything is challenging, but if you don't know better, just keep doing it. It's going to be fine. You can't everything will be okay, Dana. You just keep moving along.
Wow. We didn't even pay you to say that. We didn't even pay you to say that.
But I do. But I think humor works too. Like I find my kids very amusing and their friends and the things that they do and say. But you'll get through everything. You just do the best you can. And I always think that, if other people can do it, I can. So why not?
For the full podcast, go to foxnewspodcast.com.